Your daughter talks way too much. Tape her mouth shut next time, my sister said at dinner. My 7-year-old daughter had been telling us a story about something that happened at school. Mom laughed, Dad just kept eating. My daughter immediately went quiet. I slowly put down my fork. Come on, baby, we're leaving. We walked out. I canceled the Thanksgiving catering that night, the $4,600 order I had paid for. On Thursday, 22 people showed up expecting a Thanksgiving dinner. Instead, they found an empty table. Your daughter talks way too much. Maybe tape her mouth next time. My sister Rachel said it as casually as if she were talking about the weather. My 7-year-old daughter, Lily, had been halfway through telling everyone about something that happened at school. Her class had built little bridges out of popsicle sticks, and hers had held more weight than anyone else's. She was excited, really excited. Her brown eyes were shining, and her little hands moved as she explained how her teacher kept adding small metal washers to the bridge. And then Mrs. Collins put another one on, and I thought it was finally going to break, but it didn't, and Ethan said that was when Rachel cut her off. God, Lily, you seriously never stop talking. Lily immediately froze. Rachel smirked, took another sip of her wine, and then looked directly at me. Seriously, Daniel, your daughter talks too much. Tape her mouth next time. My mother laughed, not an awkward little laugh, she actually laughed. My father continued cutting his steak like nothing had happened. My brother Chris stared down at his plate. Rachel's husband, Mark, gave a weak smile, as if pretending it was a joke could somehow make the moment less uncomfortable. Lily looked around the table. Then she looked at me. The excitement vanished from her face so quickly that it felt like someone had turned off a light. Oh, she whispered. She folded her hands tightly in her lap. I'm sorry, that was what broke something inside me, not Rachel's comment, not my mother laughing, not my father pretending he hadn't heard it. It was my daughter apologizing simply because she had been happy. I slowly put my fork down. The sound of the metal hitting the plate seemed much louder than it should have. Rachel raised an eyebrow. What? I stood up. Come on, baby. Lily looked confused. Are we going home? Yeah, my mother sighed. Oh, Daniel, don't start. I helped Lily put on her little blue jacket. Rachel laughed again. Seriously, you're leaving because of that? I looked straight at her. No. I'm leaving because my 7-year-old daughter was excited about something she was proud of, and you embarrassed her for it. I paused. And instead of one person at this table telling you to stop, Mom laughed and Dad just kept eating. Dad finally looked up. It was a joke. That seems to be the family excuse for everything. Mom placed her wine glass down. You're being dramatic. I zipped up Lily's jacket. Rachel shook her head. You baby that kid way too much. The real world isn't going to clap every time she tells some boring story. Lily heard every word. I watched her shoulders drop. Something inside me went completely cold. I had spent most of my life swallowing the things my family said because fighting back was exhausting. I could handle being insulted. I could handle being called sensitive, cheap, stubborn, or ungrateful, but Lily wasn't going to grow up learning the same lesson I had, that keeping the peace meant allowing people to hurt you. I looked at Rachel. You don't speak to my daughter like that again. Oh my God, I mean it. She leaned back in her chair. Or what? I picked up Lily's little backpack. Or you don't see us. Mom's expression hardened immediately. You would keep your daughter away from her family over one sentence? No. I'd keep her away from people who think humiliating a child is entertainment. Dad muttered under his breath. Unbelievable. I took Lily's hand and started walking toward the door. Behind us, Rachel called out, have fun raising another oversensitive little victim. I stopped for half a second. I wanted to turn around. I wanted to say everything I had been holding inside for years. Instead, I squeezed Lily's hand. Let's go. We left. Inside the truck, Lily was completely silent. I started the engine, but I didn't pull away immediately. She stared straight through the windshield. Finally, she spoke. Dad, yeah, do I really talk too much? I felt something twist painfully in my chest. I'm a tile setter. I've spent almost 20 years on my knees laying porcelain, marble, ceramic, and stone. I know exactly what a bad foundation looks like. I know how one tiny crack, when ignored for too long, can eventually destroy an entire floor. And as I sat there beside my daughter, I realized my family had been putting little cracks in me for years. I had simply gotten used to stepping over them. I wasn't going to let them do the same thing to her. I turned toward Lily. No, but Aunt Rachel said. Aunt Rachel was being cruel. Lily looked at me. Adults can be cruel. Yeah, sometimes. Even family, I swallowed, especially family sometimes. She nodded slowly, then looked down at her sneakers. I was really proud of my bridge. I reached over and pulled her clothes. You should be. It held 84 washers. 84, she nodded. That sounds like one serious bridge. A tiny smile finally appeared on her face. By the time we got home, she was telling me the entire story again. I listened to every single word. What my family didn't know was that the dinner they had just ruined was nothing compared to what was coming. Thanksgiving was only 6 days away, and I was paying for almost everything. Somehow, that had become my responsibility too. It had started 5 years earlier, after Mom complained that cooking Thanksgiving dinner for such a large family had become too exhausting. There were my parents, Rachel and Mark, Chris and his girlfriend, cousins, aunts, uncles, and kids, 22 people that year. Rachel suggested catering. Everyone immediately liked the idea. Then came the question nobody wanted to answer. Who was going to pay? My father was living on a fixed income. Rachel said she had too many expenses. Chris was between jobs. My aunt promised she would contribute, but somehow that contribution never appeared, so I paid. The first year cost around $2,100. The following year, everyone wanted upgrades, better turkey. Prime rib, salmon because Rachel had decided turkey was boring. 3 different kinds of potatoes, appetizers, dessert trays, special meals for the kids, delivery and setup. By the previous Thanksgiving, I had spent nearly $4,000. Nobody really thanked me. At most, I got a casual, "Good job, Dan." But this year my business had been doing better. I had landed 2 large bathroom renovation contracts and a restaurant flooring job, so when Mom called and asked if I could handle Thanksgiving again, I said yes. Maybe that was stupid of me. I ordered everything from a local catering company called Harrison & Cole. Turkey, prime rib, glazed ham, stuffing, mac and cheese, roasted vegetables, mashed potatoes, sweet potatoes, dinner rolls, salads, cheese boards, 4 different desserts. And 2 separate trays of kid-friendly food. The total, including tax, delivery, and service fees, came to $463.71. Mom knew the price. Rachel knew it too because she had personally texted me additions to the menu. Make sure the prime rib is medium rare. Get the expensive cranberry sauce. Not that canned stuff. Can they do mini crab cakes? Mark likes those. And make sure there's enough cheesecake. Not once did she ask if I was actually comfortable paying for all of it. Then she told my daughter to shut up, and my entire family laughed. When Lily went to bed that night, I sat alone in my kitchen. My house isn't fancy. 3 bedrooms, 1.5 bathrooms, and a garage packed with tools. I bought it after Lily's mother and I divorced. We share custody, but Lily spends most weekdays with me because her mom works overnight shifts at a hospital. I had remodeled almost every room myself. The kitchen backsplash was made of blue glass tile that Lily had picked because she said it looked like 2 mermaid scales. I stared at that backsplash while my phone continued buzzing. Mom, you embarrassed everyone tonight. Rachel, hope you're proud of yourself. Then Mom again. Lily needs to learn she can't always be the center of attention. Then Rachel. And don't bring this attitude on Thanksgiving. We're trying to have a nice holiday. I actually laughed, not because any of it was funny, because something had finally become completely obvious. They expected me to walk into their Thanksgiving dinner on Thursday with $4,600 worth of food after they had insulted my daughter. They genuinely believed I would still do it. I opened my email and found the catering confirmation. At the bottom was the cancellation policy. Orders canceled more than 72 hours in advance were eligible for a refund, minus a 10% preparation fee. It was Saturday night. Thanksgiving was Thursday. I called the emergency weekend number. A woman named Melissa answered. I explained that I needed to cancel the order. She confirmed my information. Just so you know, Mr. Carter, there's a $460.37 cancellation fee. That's fine, and the remaining amount will be refunded to your card. Perfect. She paused for a moment. That's a very large Thanksgiving order. Are you sure? I looked toward the hallway where Lily was sleeping. Yes, I've never been more sure of anything. Sunday morning, my mother called. I didn't answer, then Rachel called, then Dad. Eventually, Mom sent me a text. We need to discuss your behavior before Thursday. I replied, no, we don't. 3 dots appeared almost immediately. What does that mean? It means I won't be there Thursday, neither will Lily. The phone rang 10 seconds later. I answered. Mom didn't even say hello. You are not skipping Thanksgiving over this nonsense. I'm not discussing it. Daniel, Rachel made a joke. Lily cried when you got home. There was silence. Then Mom said, children cry. That sentence told me everything I needed to know. Okay, what do you mean okay? I mean I understand where you stand, where I stand. Stop twisting everything. Your sister has a sharp sense of humor, she always has. Lily is 7 and Rachel is your sister. There it was, the hierarchy. Rachel was family, so Rachel could apparently say or do whatever she wanted. Lily was simply expected to put up with it. Mom continued. And frankly, I think you owe Rachel an apology for threatening to keep Lily away from her. No, she let out a sharp breath, at least be reasonable for Thanksgiving. Everyone is expecting you. I already said I'm not coming. Well, the food will be delivered around 11:00, right? I smiled. I wouldn't count on that. Silence. What? I canceled it. There was such a long pause that I could hear the television playing in the background. You what? I canceled the catering, Mom. All $4,600 of it. You can't do that. I just did. Her voice changed instantly. The outrage turned into panic. There are 22 people coming here. Then I suggest somebody buys groceries. Thanksgiving is 4 days away. Grocery stores are open. Your father and I cannot cook for 22 people. Then Rachel can. She has children, so do I. Mom ignored that. You committed to paying for this. No. I volunteered to pay for it. That's the same thing. It absolutely is. You're punishing the entire family because your feelings got hurt. No. I'm simply not spending $4,600 to feed people who think insulting my daughter is funny. She started yelling and I pulled the phone away from my ear. Then I heard Rachel in the background. Give me the phone. A second later, Rachel was speaking. You canceled Thanksgiving. I canceled the catering. You psycho. I almost admired the confidence. Interesting choice of words. Do you realize people are traveling for this? Then feed them. You said you were handling it and you said my daughter needed tape over her mouth. Oh my God. You are obsessed with that. Yes, why? Because she's my daughter. Rachel gave a bitter laugh. You have always been too sensitive, and you've always confused people tolerating you with people actually liking you. She went quiet. I continued. You want the catering, call Harrison and Cole. Maybe they'll reinstate the order if you give them your credit card. I don't have $4,600 to waste on dinner. Neither do I. But you make more than me and we're family. That didn't seem to matter on Saturday. She hung up. The next 3 days were chaos. My phone exploded with calls. My Aunt Carol called. Daniel, your mother is devastated. Did she tell you why? She said there was some disagreement involving Lily. Rachel told her to tape Lily's mouth shut. Silence. Oh, and Mom laughed. Another silence. Well, Rachel can be difficult. That phrase, Rachel can be difficult, it was practically the family motto. A polite way of saying everyone had spent 35 years rearranging their lives around my sister's behavior. Aunt Carol eventually said, still, canceling Thanksgiving seems extreme. Are you contributing to Thanksgiving? What? Money, food. Are you bringing anything? I usually bring wine. How much? I don't know. $40, so my $4,600 contribution is expected, but protecting my daughter is extreme. She didn't have an answer. Uncle Dave called next, then Cousin Brandon, then Dad. Everyone made the same argument. You are ruining Thanksgiving. But nobody said Rachel was wrong. Nobody said Lily didn't deserve better. Nobody said they were sorry. By Wednesday evening, I stopped answering their calls. Instead, Lily and I made our own Thanksgiving plans. She wanted pancakes for breakfast, pizza for dinner, and chocolate pie. I told her Thanksgiving usually required turkey. She said, who made that rule? Fair point. So we bought the ingredients to make homemade pizza. Her mother had to work Thursday, so she agreed that Lily could stay with me. Wednesday night, while we were making the pizza, Lily suddenly asked me something. Is Grandma mad at me? I stopped stirring. No. Did I ruin Thanksgiving? I crouched down beside her. No, listen to me. You did absolutely nothing wrong, but everyone is fighting because Aunt Rachel said I talk too much. No. Everyone is fighting because Aunt Rachel said something cruel and nobody wanted her to face the consequences. Lily thought about that for a moment. Consequences are what happen after you make choices. Exactly, she smiled. Mrs. Collins says that. Mrs. Collins sounds smart. She is. Thursday morning was peaceful. I made coffee while Lily watched the Thanksgiving parade in her pajamas. Around 11:30 my phone started buzzing. Mom, I ignored it, then Rachel called. I ignored her too. Dad called next. I ignored him, then Chris called. I hesitated. Chris hadn't offended Lily, but he hadn't attacked me either. I answered. Hey, he whispered. Did you seriously cancel the food? Yes, like. All of it, oh my God, what?" He started laughing quietly at first, then harder. I frowned. "What's so funny?" "Nothing, I'm sorry." "I shouldn't laugh, Chris, there are 22 people here, I know, and Mom apparently thought you were bluffing." I leaned against the kitchen counter. "What do you mean?" "She didn't buy anything." I closed my eyes. "Of course she didn't," Chris continued. "People started arriving around 10:30. Aunt Carol brought 2 bottles of wine. Uncle Dave brought a 6-pack. Rachel brought nothing because she said she thought the food was already covered." He paused. "And Mom? She keeps looking out the window waiting for the catering van." "Yep," I rubbed my forehead. "Daniel, there is literally nothing here. Nothing. Mom has some eggs, yogurt, a bag of carrots, and half a loaf of bread." I pictured 22 relatives sitting around Mom's dining room, waiting for prime rib, crab cakes, and cheesecake that was never going to arrive. At first, I didn't feel satisfied. Mostly, I was just in disbelief. They had 5 days to make another plan, but apparently every single one of them had assumed I would eventually give in. Chris lowered his voice. "Rachel says you need to call the caterer right now. It's Thanksgiving Day. I know they're not going to magically prepare dinner for 22 people. I know." In the background, I heard Rachel yell, "Is that Daniel?" Chris sighed. "Yeah, give me the phone." A second later, Rachel was screaming, "Fix this." I held the phone away from my ear. "Happy Thanksgiving, Rachel. Everyone is sitting here with nothing to eat. Sounds uncomfortable. You did this deliberately." "Yes." She seemed completely shocked by my answer. "What? I deliberately canceled something I was paying for. You're insane." Behind her, I could hear children talking and chairs scraping across the floor. "You humiliated Mom." "No. Mom humiliated herself by assuming I'd pay anyway. Our relatives drove for hours. They had 5 days' notice that I wasn't coming." Rachel went quiet for a second. "Mom didn't tell anyone." That surprised me. Then it made perfect sense. Mom hadn't told them because she expected me to cave. "That sounds like something you should discuss with Mom. You're enjoying this." "No, I'm making pizza with my daughter." I looked across the kitchen. Lily was rolling the dough with a small wooden rolling pin. There was flour on her cheek and she was quietly humming to herself. She looked happy. She looked safe. I said, "You told a 7-year-old child that she talked too much and suggested taping her mouth shut. Then, when she apologized for speaking, you didn't feel bad." "You doubled down." Rachel didn't respond. Mom laughed. Dad ignored it. "And then all of you expected me to spend thousands of dollars so you could sit around pretending we're one big loving family." Rachel remained silent. "So no," I said. "I'm not fixing your dinner." Then I hung up. 20 minutes later, Dad called. I answered because a part of me still wanted to hear whether he would finally understand. He didn't. "You've made your point." "No, Dad, I made my decision. We're sitting here looking like fools. You're adults. Your mother is crying." "Did she cry when Lily cried?" He went silent. I waited. Nothing. That silence hurt more than anger ever could. I finally said, "That's what I thought, Daniel. This has gone far enough." "What?" "It went too far for you when Thanksgiving became uncomfortable. It went too far for me Saturday night." He sighed. "You can't hold one mistake over everyone forever." It wasn't one mistake. I surprised myself when I said it because suddenly I could see the entire pattern. Every Christmas when Rachel insulted my work, every birthday when Mom asked how much money I was making, every family vacation I helped pay for, only to get mocked for driving a work truck. Every time Dad asked me to repair his shower for free because hiring another contractor was a waste of money. Every time Rachel called tile setting glorified construction work while asking me to lend her money. I had tiled Rachel's entire kitchen 2 years earlier. Free labor, 3 weekends. Materials at my own cost. She complained afterward because the grout was slightly darker than the picture she had saved from Pinterest. I had replaced my parents' bathroom floor, built their shower, and repaired cracked tile around their fireplace. I never charged them. But when I started doing well financially, somehow my money and my work became public property. They didn't respect what I did. They respected what my work could provide for them. "This wasn't just one mistake," I said. "It was simply the first time you had done it to Lily." Dad immediately became defensive. "Nobody did anything to Lily. There it is." "What?" "That's exactly why we're done talking." I ended the call. Lily looked over at me. "Everything okay?" I smiled. "Yep, our pizza looks weird." I looked down at it. She had shaped it into a heart, although one side was much bigger than the other. "It looks perfect." She grinned. Around 4 that afternoon, Chris sent me a picture. I opened it and saw my family eating takeout, Chinese food. Apparently, 3 different restaurants had refused their huge last-minute order, so Chris and Mark had driven around town buying whatever they could find. There were white takeout containers covering Mom's dining table, orange chicken, fried rice, egg rolls. Someone had even managed to find 2 grocery store rotisserie chickens. Chris captioned the picture, "Thanksgiving 2025, never forget." I laughed, then he sent another message. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry I didn't say anything Saturday." Rachel was completely out of line. That meant more to me than I expected. I replied, "Thanks." A minute later, another message came through. "Lily deserves someone besides you standing up for her." I should have done it. That was the first real apology anyone had given me. Not "sorry you were offended," not "sorry things got out of hand," an actual apology. I showed Lily the picture of our Chinese food Thanksgiving. She giggled. "They're eating noodles." "Yep, apparently there are no rules on Thanksgiving. See?" She pointed at me triumphantly. "I told you things didn't magically get better after Thanksgiving. Actually, they got worse before they got better. Mom didn't speak to me for almost 3 weeks. Dad sent me a text saying he was disappointed in the man I'd become. Rachel blocked me on social media, which was probably the nicest thing she'd done for me in years. Then Christmas started getting closer. Normally, I'd spend almost $2,000 on gifts for the entire family. That year I bought gifts for Lily, one for Chris because he'd apologized, and a gift card for his girlfriend. That was all. Mom finally called 10 days before Christmas. Her voice was strangely soft. "Are you coming Christmas Eve? Is Rachel going?" "Yes." "Then no, Daniel, I already told you what needs to happen. She's not apologizing to a child, then she won't see mine." "She thinks you owe her an apology." I laughed. "For canceling my own catering, for embarrassing her." "She did that to herself." Mom sighed. "Families forgive. Forgiveness comes after accountability." "Where are you getting all these therapy words?" I almost laughed again. "Mom, I install tile for a living. I understand basic cause and effect." She didn't find that funny. Christmas came and went without us. Lily and I had breakfast with her mother after her hospital shift, then we spent the afternoon putting together the giant dollhouse I'd bought her. It took 4 hours. Lily talked almost the entire time. She talked about school, cartoons, whether dogs dreamed, why adults drank coffee if it tasted bitter, and whether clouds actually weighed anything. I listened. Not because every single thing she talked about interested me, but because she did. That difference became very important to me. A month later, something unexpected happened. Rachel showed up at my house. I almost didn't open the door. She stood on the porch wearing a gray coat with her arms folded. There was no makeup, no attitude, or at least not much of one. "What do you want? Can I come in?" "No." Her jaw tightened. Classic Rachel appeared on her face for a second, then disappeared. She looked down. "I came to apologize." I said nothing. She hated silence. She always had. Eventually she continued. "What I said to Lily was wrong. It was cruel." I nodded once. "And Mom shouldn't have laughed. That's between Mom and Lily, I know." She pushed her hands deeper into her coat pockets. I was annoyed because she'd been talking for a while, but she's 7, that's not an excuse. "No, I also shouldn't have called you names afterward." "No." She looked irritated that I wasn't helping her through the apology. "That wasn't my responsibility." Finally she said, "Can I apologize to Lily?" "That depends on what. Whether you're apologizing because you actually miss her or because Mom wants everyone together again." Rachel looked at me. For once she didn't have an immediate response, then she spoke quietly. Because she didn't deserve what I said. I believed her, not completely, but enough to give her a chance. Lily was in the living room coloring. I asked if she wanted to talk to Aunt Rachel. She hesitated, then she nodded. Rachel crouched down in front of her. "Hey kiddo." Lily didn't answer. Rachel swallowed. "I said something really mean to you at Grandma's house." "Yes." "I told you that you talk too much." "Yes." "And I made a joke about taping your mouth." "Yes." Rachel looked embarrassed. "Good, I shouldn't have said any of that. Adults are supposed to know better and I didn't act like one. I'm sorry." Lily studied her for a moment, then asked the kind of question only a 7-year-old would ask. "Do you still think I talk too much?" Rachel glanced at me. I didn't help her. She looked back at Lily. "No." Lily thought about it. "Sometimes I do talk a lot." Rachel almost smiled. "Sometimes I do too." "That's true." I had to look away so I wouldn't laugh. Rachel apologized. Lily accepted, but forgiveness didn't mean everything suddenly went back to normal. That was the lesson I'd finally learned. I stopped paying for family events altogether. When Mom's birthday came around and Rachel suggested a restaurant that charged $80 per person, I simply replied, "Sounds great." Everyone can pay for themselves. Suddenly they picked somewhere cheaper. When Dad asked me to redo their guest bathroom, I gave him my usual estimate. He stared at it. You're charging us? Yes. I'm your son, but I'm also a professional. He hired someone cheaper. 6 months later, he called me because their shower was leaking. I gave him another estimate. This time it was higher. He paid it. Something strange happened once I stopped being the family's automatic solution. They became more capable. Rachel learned how to host dinners without spending thousands of dollars. Mom discovered the idea of a potluck Thanksgiving. Dad learned that contractors cost money, and I finally realized I had been spending an unbelievable amount trying to earn something that should never have had a price attached to it: respect. A year after the Thanksgiving disaster, Mom asked what Lily and I were doing for the holiday. I told her we already had plans. She sounded disappointed. We're doing a potluck this year, she said. Everyone brings something. That sounds smart. Rachel is bringing dessert, good for her, and your father is cooking the turkey. I almost dropped the phone. Dad, she laughed. Yes. He's been watching cooking videos. I smiled, then she said, we'd really like you and Lily to come. I didn't answer right away. Rachel apologized. Mom added, I know. I suppose I owe Lily an apology too. That surprised me. A week later, Mom came over. She sat at my kitchen table beneath the blue glass backsplash Lily had chosen. Lily sat across from her. Mom looked more nervous than I had ever seen her. I laughed when Rachel said something mean to you, she said. I shouldn't have. Lily nodded. It hurt my feelings, I know, and Grandpa didn't say anything. Mom looked down. No, he didn't. Why? There are some questions children ask that adults spend decades trying to avoid. Mom struggled with that one. Finally, she said, because sometimes adults get so used to bad behavior that they stop trying to correct it. Lily thought about that for a moment. That's not very smart. Mom gave a small laugh. No, she said, it is. I watched them from the kitchen counter. For years I had believed strength meant carrying things, heavy tile. Boxes of mortar, bills, family responsibilities, other people's mistakes. I was wrong. Sometimes strength means putting something down, a burden, an expectation. A relationship that can never go back to the way it used to be. That Thanksgiving changed my family, but not because 22 people ended up eating orange chicken and supermarket rotisserie chicken around an empty holiday table. It changed us because, for once, I refused to fix the damage everyone else had caused. I let the crack remain visible. And when nobody could cover it with my money anymore, they finally had to look at it. The following Thanksgiving, Lily and I went to my parents' house. I brought homemade mashed potatoes. Not catering, not a $4,600 meal, just one dish. Dad's turkey was a little dry. Rachel's cheesecake had cracked right down the middle. Chris brought rolls and forgot to warm them. Nobody cared. During dinner, Lily started telling everyone about a science project. She was 8 now. Her class had built little rockets. She jumped straight into every detail, the cardboard fins, the baking soda, the vinegar, and how hers had flown sideways and nearly landed in a bush. I watched Rachel from across the table. For a moment our eyes met, then she turned toward Lily. Wait, she said. Lily stopped talking. My body tensed automatically. Rachel reached for the bowl of potatoes. You skipped something. Lily looked at her. Why did your rocket go sideways? Lily's face immediately lit up. Oh, because Emma glued one of the fins crooked, but then she said it was my fault. And then Mrs. Collins said, she kept going, for 5 straight minutes. Nobody interrupted her. Dad listened. Mom asked questions. Chris laughed when Lily acted out the rocket crashing into the bush. Rachel listened too, and me. I sat there eating slightly dry turkey and imperfect cheesecake, thinking about the $460 cancellation fee that had once seemed like a huge amount of money. It turned out to be some of the best money I had ever spent. Because that Thanksgiving, I lost $460, but my daughter learned something worth infinitely more. She learned that when someone tries to make her smaller just so they can feel bigger, she doesn't have to shrink, she doesn't have to laugh along, she doesn't have to apologize for taking up space. And most importantly, she learned that her father would never sit quietly at a table while someone tried to teach her otherwise. I had spent years laying tile over solid foundations. It took my 7-year-old daughter to teach me that families need the same thing, and sometimes when the foundation is cracked, you don't simply cover it, you tear out what's broken. You rebuild it properly, and you never apologize for refusing to stand on something that was never strong enough to hold you in the first place.
If you were in Daniel's place, do you think he did the right thing by canceling Thanksgiving? Honestly, I don't think it he should have gone that far, but after what happened to Lily, I understand why they finally drew the line. What do you think? Share your opinion in the comments, and if you enjoy the story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next story. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.